Before the tournament, I looked at Group H and said Spain first, Uruguay second, Cabo Verde third, Saudi Arabia fourth. And honestly, that still might happen. But after Matchday 1, this group looks completely different. Spain didn't beat Cabo Verde, Uruguay didn't beat Saudi Arabia, and somehow, after one round of matches, every single team in Group H has 1 point. Spain, 1 point. Uruguay, 1 point. Cabo Verde, 1 point. Saudi Arabia, 1 point. Lovely! A group that looked pretty simple on paper has immediately turned into a spreadsheet with emotions. So today, I'm doing 3 things. First, I'm going to look back at my original prediction. Then, I'm going to admit where I was right, where I was wrong, and where I was maybe being a little bit too respectful to the big names. And finally, I'm going to predict the rest of Group H again, based on what these teams actually showed on the pitch. Right, let's get into the mess. Let's start with Spain versus Cabo Verde. My original prediction was Spain 3, Cabo Verde 0. The actual result? Spain 0, Cabo Verde 0. So yes, that prediction did not exactly cover itself in glory. I expected Spain to dominate possession. They did. I expected Cabo Verde to defend deep. They did. I expected Spain to create enough chances to win comfortably. They created chances. And then they finished like someone had replaced the goal with a complicated tax form. Spain had the ball for almost the entire match. They moved it side to side. They had 27 attempts. They had control. They had territory. They had all the usual Spain things. Except, unfortunately, the tiny little detail where you put the ball in the net, which is, quite important. Possession is lovely. Passing triangles are lovely. But at some point, someone has to stop admiring the geometry and actually score. And that was Spain's problem. They had control, but not enough bite. They had rhythm, but not enough penetration. And starting without the real 1v1 threat of Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams from the beginning did them no favors. Because against a low block, you need players who can disturb the shape, players who make defenders move, players who beat someone and force the whole block to react. Spain spent too much of the game circulating the ball in front of Cabo Verde. Pass there, pass there, pass there. And Cabo Verde basically said, fine, do that all day. We'll wait. And they waited brilliantly. This was not just luck. Let's be clear about that. Cabo Verde defended with discipline, courage, and ridiculous emotional control for a team playing its first ever World Cup match against Spain. They sat in a deep block, they crowded the box, they protected Vozinha. And when Spain finally did break through, Vozinha turned into a wall with gloves, 40 years old. World Cup debut, man of the match against Spain. I mean, honestly, that is not football anymore, that is cinema. But for Spain, this was a warning. They are still one of the best teams in the tournament. They still have elite midfield control. They still have the technical quality to win this group. But if they don't fix the finishing and the width issue quickly, teams are going to look at that Cabo Verde match and think, right, sit deep, stay compact, frustrate them, and see if Spain actually know where the goal is today. And for Spain, that is not exactly ideal. Now let's talk about Saudi Arabia versus Uruguay. My original prediction was Saudi Arabia 1, Uruguay 2, the actual result, Saudi Arabia 1, Uruguay 1. So again, I was close in terms of how the match might feel, but wrong on the result. I expected Saudi Arabia to make it uncomfortable. They did. I expected Uruguay to have enough intensity and quality to win. They did not. And this is where I need to be honest. Uruguay were not terrible, but they were not convincing either. They started with the swagger of the better team, but for too long, it was a lot of noise without enough precision. Saudi Arabia scored first, and that goal was not some random miracle from another planet. They grew into the match. They attacked with more courage than expected. They caused problems. And Uruguay looked a bit casual at the back, which, against Saudi Arabia at a World Cup, is brave. Let's call it brave. Because apparently, watching what Saudi Arabia did to Argentina in 2022 was not enough of a hint. Uruguay eventually improved. Bielsa made changes. The second half looked more coherent. They attacked more through the wide areas. They put crosses into the box. They created pressure. And Maxi Araujo rescued the equalizer with 10 minutes to go. But that's the key word, rescued. Uruguay did not take control of the group. They rescued a point. That is a very different thing. and Bielsa knew it. This was a match Uruguay should have won, especially after Spain had already dropped points earlier in the day. That was the chance. Spain sleep, Uruguay win, suddenly Uruguay controlled the group. Instead, they also drew. Brilliant. Group H basically said, nobody wants to lead? Fine, everyone gets 1 point. For Saudi Arabia though, this was a very useful result. They showed spirit, they showed organization, they showed they can compete physically and emotionally, and their goalkeeper kept them alive with some big saves. Now, Saudi Arabia are not suddenly favorites to qualify, let's not get carried away, but they are absolutely not finished, and that changes the final match against Cabo Verde, because before the tournament, we thought that game was mostly about pride. Now, it could be about third place, maybe even a small qualification chance, and that makes things very interesting. After Matchday 1, the table is beautifully ridiculous. Spain, 1 point. Uruguay, 1 point. Cabo Verde, 1 point. Saudi Arabia, 1 point. Everyone level, same points. No wins, no one in control. But again, the table only tells part of the story. Spain are frustrated because they dominated and failed to score. Uruguay are annoyed because they had the chance to punish Spain's mistake and didn't take it. Cabo Verde are flying emotionally because they just held Spain on their World Cup debut, and Saudi Arabia are encouraged because they nearly beat Uruguay. Same points, completely different moods, and this is where it gets interesting. Before the tournament, we thought the big match was Uruguay versus Spain for first place. That is still important, but now the next two matches are massive. Spain versus Saudi Arabia, Uruguay versus Cabo Verde. Because if either Spain or Uruguay fail to win again, this group becomes properly chaotic. Not fake chaos, real chaos. The kind where a debutant nation starts dreaming about the knockouts and a heavyweight suddenly has to do maths at midnight. Nobody wants that. Well, except everyone watching. The next match is Spain versus Saudi Arabia. And for Spain, this is simple. Win. No excuses. No, we controlled the game. No, we created chances. No, their goalkeeper was brilliant. No, win the match. Because after drawing with Cabo Verde, Spain cannot afford another polite little possession festival with no end product. Saudi Arabia will defend compactly. They will try to stay narrow. They will block central spaces. They will force Spain wide. And they will wait for transitions. That's the danger. Because Saudi Arabia already showed against Uruguay that they can play with courage. They are not just sitting there hoping the match ends quickly. They will break forward. They will attack set pieces. They will look for moments. And if Spain lose the ball carelessly, Saudi Arabia can absolutely cause problems. But tactically, this is still a game Spain should win. They need to stretch the pitch better. They need the wide players earlier. They need more direct running. They need to attack the box with more aggression. Because against Cabo Verde, too much of the attack looked safe. Safe pass, safe pass, safe pass. Lovely, very mature. Also 0-0. This is where Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams matter. If they start or if they come on earlier, Spain have more 1v1 threat. They force defenders to step out. They create gaps. They turn sterile possession into actual danger. And against Saudi Arabia, Spain need that from the start. Not in the 71st minute, when everyone has already had a nice long look at the problem. Saudi Arabia can score. I wouldn't be shocked if they get one through a transition or a set piece. But Spain should be angry enough, sharp enough, and frankly, embarrassed enough to respond properly. My prediction? Spain win. Most likely scores Spain 2, Saudi Arabia 0, or Spain 2, Saudi Arabia 1. I'm choosing Spain 2-0, not because I fully trust their finishing yet, but because the quality gap is still real, and Spain cannot afford to waste another match. Now the other Matchday 2 game, Uruguay versus Cabo Verde. And before the tournament, this looked fairly simple. Uruguay should beat Cabo Verde. Now, it still might happen, but it will not be simple, because Cabo Verde have already shown they can defend against elite possession. They are compact, they are disciplined, they do not panic, and after holding Spain, they will believe they can frustrate anyone. That belief matters. But Uruguay are a different type of problem. Spain tried to control Cabo Verde with the ball. Uruguay will try to attack them with pressure, physicality, crosses, second balls, and sheer Bielsa-flavored intensity. Spain asks you to solve a puzzle. Uruguay kick the door until the hinges start making noises. Different style, different problem. For Cabo Verde, the challenge is energy. Defending against Spain for 90 minutes takes a huge emotional and physical toll. You can see the problem. They celebrated the draw like history, because it was history. But now they have to do it again, against Uruguay, and Uruguay will be angry. Because they know they missed a big chance against Saudi Arabia. They cannot draw again. They need the win. The danger for Uruguay is impatience. If it stays 0-0 for too long, they might start forcing crosses, forcing shots, and turning the match into chaos. And Cabo Verde will love that. They want Uruguay frustrated. They want the game emotional. They want one set piece, one counter, one mistake. But I think Uruguay have just enough. They have more power in the box. They have Valverde's drive. They have Darwin's runs. They have enough aerial threat to test Cabo Verde in ways Spain did not. And if they score first, Cabo Verde will have to open up slightly. That changes everything. My prediction? Uruguay win. Most likely scores, Uruguay 1, Cabo Verde 0, or Uruguay 2, Cabo Verde 1. I'm choosing Uruguay 1-0. Tense, physical, not pretty. Very much the sort of match where you check the clock at 63 minutes and think, right, this is getting awkward. But Uruguay find a way. So with these predictions, Spain beat Saudi Arabia, Uruguay beat Cabo Verde. The table after matchday 2 becomes Spain, 4 points, Uruguay, 4 points, Cabo Verde, 1 point, Saudi Arabia, 1 point. And that puts the group back into the shape we expected, sort of. Spain and Uruguay would be in control. Cabo Verde and Saudi Arabia would be chasing. But the difference is this. Cabo Verde and Saudi Arabia would still have a real third-place final. And with the expanded format, 4 points could matter. So the final match between Cabo Verde and Saudi Arabia is no longer just a nice emotional side story. It could decide who stays alive. And Spain versus Uruguay, that probably decides first place. But now both teams have already shown weaknesses. Spain cannot finish, Uruguay cannot start properly. Beautiful. Final match day, Cabo Verde versus Saudi Arabia. And this is now a brilliant little game. Not because it decides the group winner. It probably doesn't. But because it decides who gets to dream. Cabo Verde would have 1 point, Saudi Arabia would have 1 point. Both teams would know that a win gives them 4 points, and 4 points could be enough to reach the round of 32. Not guaranteed, but possible. So this is not just pride anymore. This is a real match. For Cabo Verde, the challenge is different now. Against Spain, they defended deep. Against Uruguay, they probably defend deep again. But against Saudi Arabia, they may actually need to play more. They may need to attack. They may need to take initiative. And that is harder. It is one thing to build a wall and survive. It is another thing to build attacks under pressure. And that is where Saudi Arabia can hurt them. Saudi Arabia have more World Cup experience. They have players who understand tournament moments. They showed against Uruguay that they can attack with courage, but they also look tired late. And that matters. Because Cabo Verde have something powerful now. Belief. They held Spain. They competed with Uruguay in this scenario. They know they belong. And if this match becomes physical, emotional, and tense, I actually like Cabo Verde's mentality. They are not here for a tourism advert anymore. They are here to take points. Saudi Arabia may have more experience, but Cabo Verde have momentum. And sometimes, in a World Cup, momentum makes players run through walls, or at least try to. My prediction? Cabo Verde win. Most likely scores, Cabo Verde 1, Saudi Arabia 0, or Cabo Verde 1, Saudi Arabia 1. I'm choosing Cabo Verde 1-0. A set piece, a second ball, a scrappy goal, something deeply unpleasant for the neutral, but absolutely beautiful for Cabo Verde. That would give them 4 points. And suddenly, their World Cup debut is not just a nice story, it is a serious knockout stage possibility. The other final match is Uruguay versus Spain. And this is still the heavyweight game, but the mood has changed. Before the tournament, this looked like a match where both teams might already be comfortable. Now, because both dropped points on matchday 1, this could be more tense. If Spain and Uruguay both win their second games, they each come into this match with 4 points. A draw probably sends both through. But first place still matters. Spain probably have the better goal difference. Uruguay probably need to win to top the group. So tactically, this becomes fascinating. Spain want control. Uruguay want pressure. Spain want rhythm. Uruguay want disruption. Spain want the ball. Uruguay want to make having the ball feel deeply annoying. That is the match. Uruguay will press. They will get into duels. They will try to make Spain uncomfortable. They will try to stop Rodri or Zubimendi from dictating calmly. They will try to make Pedri play backwards. They will try to turn Spain's passing game into a cage. But Spain, when they are right, are one of the best teams in the world at escaping pressure. If they break Uruguay's press, there will be space. And that is where Yamal, Nico Williams, Pedri, Fabian, whoever is on the pitch, can punish them. The problem is Spain's finishing, again. Because against Uruguay, you may not get 27 attempts. You might get fewer chances. And if Spain wastes them like they did against Cabo Verde, Uruguay will not politely wait forever. Darwin might run behind. Valverde might smash one. Araujo might appear again. And suddenly, Spain are in trouble. For Uruguay, the problem is control. They cannot start like they did against Saudi Arabia. They cannot give away dead minutes. Against Spain, if you spend half an hour looking a bit casual, Spain will turn that into 700 passes and a mild existential crisis. So both teams have issues. Spain have the cleaner structure. Uruguay have the more disruptive intensity. And because Spain only need a draw, I think they manage it. My prediction? Draw. Most likely scores. Uruguay 1, Spain 1. Or Spain 2, Uruguay 1. I'm choosing 1-1. Spain survive the storm. Uruguay push, but not enough. And Spain win the group on goal difference. So here is my updated Group H prediction. Before the tournament, I had Spain first, Uruguay second, Cabo Verde third, Saudi Arabia fourth. After Matchday 1, I'm keeping the same order. But the story is completely different. My updated final table is first, Spain, 5 points. Second, Uruguay, 5 points. Third, Cabo Verde, 4 points. Fourth, Saudi Arabia, 1 point. Spain still win the group, but not because they dominate it. They win it because they recover against Saudi Arabia, draw Uruguay, and edge the group on goal difference. Uruguay still finish second, but they have already made life harder for themselves by drawing Saudi Arabia. And honestly, they looked like a team that needed a slap at halftime to remember they were in a World Cup match. Cabo Verde finished third with 4 points. And that is the big change. Before the tournament, we thought Cabo Verde might get a historic win, but probably fall short. Now, after drawing Spain, 4 points is absolutely realistic. And 4 points could be enough to reach the knockouts. Imagine that. First World Cup, draw Spain. Beat Saudi Arabia. Potentially reach the round of 32. That is not just a nice underdog story. That is a proper tournament run. Saudi Arabia finished fourth in my updated prediction. That sounds harsh after drawing Uruguay. But the problem is the schedule. They still have Spain. Then they have Cabo Verde in a match where both teams may need to win. And I think Cabo Verde's defensive belief and physicality might just edge that final game. So in my first prediction, I was right about one thing. Spain and Uruguay are still the two strongest teams in the group. But I was wrong about how comfortable this would be. I was too generous to Spain's attack. I was too trusting of Uruguay's ability to handle the opener, and I definitely underestimated Cabo Verde. The big story of Group H is no longer just Spain or Uruguay for first place. The big story is, can Cabo Verde actually turn their historic draw into a knockout stage push? Because Spain are still talented, Uruguay are still dangerous, Saudi Arabia are still alive. But Cabo Verde have changed the whole emotional shape of the group. So my updated prediction is Spain first, Uruguay second, Cabo Verde third, Saudi Arabia fourth. Now tell me in the comments, did Cabo Verde just become a real knockout contender, or are Spain and Uruguay about to restore order?